come and hover over my shoulder while I sew up this really cute holiday block, because what doesn't say holidays more than a snowflake? Now this block is a 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch unfinished, 6 inch finished block. So it will be 6 inches once you've sewn it into a project. This will make such a great kind of block to repeat and turn into a whole quilt, because you'll get such a cool overall design. And you can make it in all different colours. Imagine pink snowflakes would be really cute. Anyway, this video, I'm going to take you step by step over my shoulder and show you exactly how to make this block. Now in the description I will put in the cutting instructions, and I'll also put a link if you want to grab the pattern in PDF format from my shop, because I know some of you like to have the paper version to kind of add notes and just have for future reference. But let's go. So to get started, we're going to need a few tools. You're going to want to have your basic rotary cutting equipment. So I've got my mat, ruler and my rotary cutter. We're going to need some pins, so it's nice sharp pins, and some kind of marking tool to mark the back of the squares of fabric. I've just got here a sharp Bic pencil, but you can use a pen or you can use a iron away marker, whatever you want to use. I will list all the requirements for what you need to cut down in the description so that you can go and grab those. And there will also be a pattern available in my Etsy shop if you would prefer a nice crisp PDF document that you can download and follow along with. So the first step is to take our background squares, and these are the larger of the background squares. As you can see, we've got two sizes. We're going to take the larger and we're going to find the backs of each one. Now, if you're using white like I am, you just need to be careful and make sure that you are choosing the back of the fabric, because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see. So on mine, I'm just going to flip them all over and make sure that the front of the fabric is down and the backs of the fabric face up. I'm just going to go nice and steady and come to do the next step. There we go. Right, now taking them one at a time, I'm going to take my pencil and my ruler, and I'm just going to mark across one diagonal on each of the squares. As I say, you can use a pencil, you can use a marking tool, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to see it once you've sewn it into your block. So just use whatever you've got to hand, and off we go. Now you want to be as accurate as you can with these, because these are actually going to be sewing lines. So you want to try and get it as close to those corners as you can. And we're going to repeat that on all 8 of them. That's it. 5, 6. Okay, so we've got 8 of them. So let's just pile these back up again. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to split these out. We want 2 of the background fabrics that we've just drawn on and 1 of the fabric, the printed fabrics that are going to make our snowflakes. So 1, 2, missing 1. Go. We want 2 on each one. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take these one at a time, and we're going to place it so that the right side of the fabric is facing the right side of our printed fabric here, our coloured fabric, and we're going to place it across here with the diagonal line going from top left to top right, and then it will leave this margin around the edge. And then we're going to grab a pin, and we're just going to pop a pin in, and we're going to pop a pin through like that to hold it in place. And we're going to do that, and then we're going to sew across the line that we've drawn. So we're going to sew from here to here, right on that line. Now you can choose to do one at a time, or like I'm going to do, you can chain piece. Chain piecing is where you simply do one after another without cutting the thread in your sewing machine. And it's really good for kind of batching bits of blocks like this one, where we're just repeating the same thing over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a pin in to each of these and then put them in a pile, and then we will chain piece them all. Okay, so we've got 4 here ready to be sewn. I really encourage you to have a go at using a leader. So that's just a scrap piece of fabric that you pop under and you start stitching on before you start stitching on your final pieces. And all we're doing is we are going to pop these under and sew directly on the drawn line, as close to that drawn line as you can possibly get, and just take your time with these. If you need to readjust them, just readjust them slightly. But hopefully those pins will have held in place. As you can see, we're chain piecing. We're not cutting the thread in between each of the pieces that we're sewing. We're just going to sew a few stitches and then we're going to carry straight on with the next one. And that is chain piecing. And it's a really, really, really good technique to learn in quilting. It definitely speeds things up. Saves thread and saves time. Right, that's the last one. There we go. Right, we can take our pins out and cut off our leader and pop that back under. So we've got 1, 2, pin out. I don't know why I always put my pins on the left side when actually I'm right-handed, so really they should be under there. Right, there we go. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now we're going to trim. So we've got the blue square on our left. We're going to be trimming this end off so that when we open it up, it's going to create that shape. So just make sure that when you're trimming, you've got your triangle flap coming down into the square, and it's this side here you're going to be cutting. So if you keep them all in the same place, that should be nice and easy to do. So let's do that next. Just wanted to show you these really sweet little pins. So they are so sharp. They are applique pins and they are by Laurie Holt, and they come in this really cute little pin jar. They are such a cute little investment, and I'm really pleased I got these. They are so sharp, but they're also really thin. So I'm using them for my block today, but I'm also using them in my hometown quilt. They're proving very, very good for that. Right, let's get back to this. So we've got our square here we're going to be cutting. So we've got our triangle flap pointing down here, and we're going to take our ruler, let's go over to this side, and we're going to cut 1/4 inch away from the line that we've just sewn. Okay, so here's the stitch line, and I'm going to put my 1/4 inch here, and I'm going to cut, and you should be left with 2 little triangles, and it's up to you what you do with those. For me, they're probably a little bit small for me to use, so I'll probably just discard them. But if you want to keep them for something else, you could put them in your little scrap stash. Right, so let's get these done. So we should be doing this 4 times. So we've now got 4 looking like this, and what's going to happen is it's going to form a channel down the middle, which is going to form our snowflake. So we've got 4 of those, and we're going to just repeat that exact step on the opposite side. Now you can at this point press these now, but actually I'm going to press them all in one go in a moment. So I'm just going to pull it open, and I'm going to pop the next corner on. So we're doing exactly the same as we were doing before. Grab our pins. So we're going to put the triangle that we've just sewn to the bottom left, and we're going to put the square with the diagonal line drawn on it up on the top right, with the diagonal line going in this orientation. And I'm just going to pin it in place. I'm going to repeat that, so just fold that back, pop that into position, pop a pin in. I feel like I should use the blue-headed pins. Fold it back. Now you'll know if you've got these pinned in the right orientation, because when you peel back that second one, you should be left with that shape. And that's how you know if you've pinned it in the wrong direction, or you've got your line going in the wrong direction, you won't be able to make this particular shape. So this is a shape that we're aiming for. Okay, so we're going to sew on these exactly as we did before, and then I'll show you what that looks like. And we're going to repeat the cutting. So we're going to cut 1/4 inch away from the line that we just sewed, and we should be left with this shape here. I'm going to give that a press in a moment. So we're just going to repeat that. Each one. Go. So I'm going to take this over to my pressing mat. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press on here and set my seam on both sides. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to press the seams out towards the white on each of these 4. So here we go. So we've got 4 that looks like this. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 4 smaller squares and we're going to flip them all over again so that we've got the wrong sides facing up, and we are going to draw a diagonal line across one diagonal on each of these. Now we're going to take the squares that we've just made, and one by one we are going to add this square. Now you want these here to measure 3 inches by 3 inches. So if I pop this onto my ruler here, it's going to measure 3 by 3. There we go. So 3 by 3. And if you need to square that up at all, you can do that now, so that you've got four squares that measure 3 inches by 3 inches. We're then going to add these little fellas to the top left corner of each of them. And that's going to give us the really cute little snowflake here. So I'm just going to pin that in place. all I'm doing here is I'm trimming off the corners by trimming 1/4 of an inch away from the line that I've just sewn across. Okay. I'm going to repeat that on the other 3 to make 4 corner blocks that look exactly the same. We're going to repeat the same step of cutting off this corner here so that we're left with this shape. And here we are. So the 4 of them should now look like this. Bits here. For me, they're too small to do anything with, so I'm just going to discard them. But if you want to add them to your scraps, then you can. Right, so we've cut these off. So you should have something like this. And I'm going to take them to the iron and I'm going to press them with the seam going towards the corner, because I think that's how it's going to lay the flattest. So let's go and do that. So I want you to just lay out your pieces now and just make sure that you've got everything in the right orientation. So you've got this center block, center stripe and 2 smaller stripes, and then you've got your 4 outer quadrants all going out towards the corners. And that's how it should look. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew these side pieces together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that onto here and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch down here. You can pin if you want to. And you, as I say, you can pin if you want to. And then we're going to do the same on this side. So pull that across. Line it up. And we're going to sew it. Done, and that is that one done. Okay, so lay them back down, make sure they're in the right position. Now you don't need to press this bit at this stage, we'll do it all in one go in a second. So the next job is to sew this piece to this piece. So I'm just going to fold this over onto this piece here, and we're going to sew across there, and we're going to repeat that side as well. Okay, so there's 1, there's 2. So I'm going to go and give this a press. And I'm going to press these towards that darker centre strip. So let's go press. So there we go. So that's all pressed. So I've pressed to the darker centre piece here and then lay them down. And then all we're going to do is we're going to join this to the centre piece, press that, and your block is made. So let's flip this one. Oh, let's flip this onto here. Now I am going to pin this one just because it's a longer piece of fabric, and I'm going to pin it at this end and across that centre. And at the beginning here. Go. Right, let's get this sewn. Make sure you're removing your pins as you go. You want to get into the habit of never sewing over them if you can help it. And we're going to repeat the same, the other side. This is when you just want to make sure that the center channel here is running as close as you can to on top of each other. So it's worth just flipping it back and making sure that you are lined up, because you know these things happen in patchwork. You can end up just a fraction out, and the most important bit is to get this center seam lined up. So what I would do is I would pull it back and lay it on top and just make sure that it is, and then I would fold it back and I would pop a pin straight through the layers and pin, and do the same on the other side. Because this channel doesn't run all the way to the top, it's kind of hard to see. So if you're doing it on this side, so I'm just going to pop a pin here. You see they're coming out slightly out, push it through, and that will help you get your channel all nice and lined up. I'm just making sure that all your seams are laying in the right direction. You can use your fingers just to press them down, or you can pin them in place. Just go slowly over that channel, just making sure that everything lays in the right direction. Make sure that everything's still on top of one another. Pop the pins out. Here's the moment of truth. It's looking pretty darn accurate. You'll be glad that you pinned these. Right, let's go press. So I'm going to press these in towards the darker side. And there we go, your finished block. Now this should measure 6.5 by 6.5. So you might want to have a little check and just make sure that you are measuring correctly. You can just trim it down if you need to. So what do you think? Do you think you'll have a go at sewing up the snowflake holiday block? I hope so. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, your block, when it is finished, this size here will be 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches, ready for you to sew into your project. When you sew it into your project, you obviously lose the seam allowance all the way around the edge, and your block will become a 6 inch by 6 inch quilt block. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Will you give this a try? And if you do give it a try, please come over and let me know. I'd love to see some photos of your finished blocks. And until next time, I will say goodbye and thank you for joining me.